The invitation arrived in a cream-colored envelope, addressed to Dr. Sophia Westbrook and guest. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it, my hands steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Mr. and Mrs. Gerald Hartley request the pleasure of your company at the marriage of their son, Nathan Hartley, to Miss Victoria Kane. Nathan. My husband. The man who was still legally married to me was inviting me to his wedding. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I should explain. 11 years ago, I disappeared. Not because I wanted to, but because staying meant dying. The night I left, Nathan stood over me in our kitchen, his fists still clenched, my blood on his knuckles, and said 5 words that changed everything: "No one will believe you anyway." He was right. He was a decorated firefighter, a local hero who'd saved 3 children from a burning school. I was a medical student with no family, no support system, just student debt and bruises I'd learned to hide under long sleeves. So I ran. Changed my name. Changed my life. Spent 11 years building something he could never touch. But I never filed for divorce. And neither did he. I pulled out my phone and called my assistant. "Lily, clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. I need to take a trip." "Dr. Westbrook, you have the Morrison surgery scheduled for." "Reschedule it. This is important." Through my office window, I could see the skyline of Seattle, the city I'd escaped to, the city where I'd rebuilt myself from nothing into something he couldn't imagine. Dr. Sophia Westbrook, one of the country's leading reconstructive surgeons, specializing in trauma cases. Specifically, domestic violence survivors. The irony wasn't lost on me. I looked at the invitation again. The wedding was in Millbrook Falls, my old hometown. The place where I'd supposedly died 11 years ago in a car accident, my body never recovered from the river. Nathan had declared me dead after 7 years. Collected my life insurance, a policy his mother had insisted we take out. Moved on with his life while I was still very much alive, performing surgeries, saving faces, rebuilding lives. And now he was getting married. To Victoria Kane. I Googled her immediately. 26 years old, kindergarten teacher, volunteers at animal shelters, has a blog about wedding planning and finding her forever love. Her Instagram was full of pictures with Nathan, him in his firefighter uniform, her gazing at him adoringly, captions about "my hero" and "the man who saved me." Saved her. The phrase made bile rise in my throat. I scrolled through her photos, looking for signs I knew too well. Long sleeves in summer. Makeup that seemed too heavy. Sunglasses indoors. But Victoria looked genuinely happy, her smile reaching her eyes in every photo. Maybe he'd changed. Maybe I was the problem back then, young and naive and somehow provoking his rage. Then I saw it. A photo from 3 weeks ago. Victoria at a friend's barbecue, her arm extended toward the camera. On her wrist, barely visible under a decorative bracelet, was a bruise. The distinctive finger mark pattern I'd seen on my own wrists 100 times. He hadn't changed. I picked up my phone again, this time calling a different number. "Raymond? It's Sophia. I need you to do something for me." Raymond Porter was a private investigator I'd used before for patient cases, tracking down abusive exes who violated restraining orders, gathering evidence for custody battles. He was discreet, thorough, and had no qualms about bending rules when justice required it. "What do you need, Doc?" "Everything you can find on Nathan Hartley. And I mean everything. Employment records, financial statements, medical records if you can get them, property records, criminal history." "That's the firefighter from Millbrook Falls? The hero guy?" "That's him." A pause. "This personal, Doc?" "Very. Can you do it?" Give me 72 hours. I hung up and turned back to the invitation. The wedding was in 3 weeks. 3 weeks to decide if I was really going to do this. 3 weeks to plan something I'd fantasized about for 11 years but never thought I'd actually execute. My office door opened. Lily poked her head in. Dr. Westbrook, your 4 o'clock is here. The Bennett case? I glanced at my schedule. Sarah Bennett, 28, recovering from third-degree burns on her face and neck. Her boyfriend had thrown boiling water at her during an argument. The reconstruction would take multiple surgeries, but we'd get her back. We always did. Send her in. As Sarah entered, nervous and scared, I pushed thoughts of Nathan aside. This was my purpose now. This was why I'd survived. Every face I reconstructed was a middle finger to every man who thought he could destroy a woman and get away with it. But Nathan was different. He'd made me disappear. Made the world think I was dead. Collected money from my death. And now he was about to trap another woman in the same nightmare I'd escaped. After Sarah left, promising to follow the pre-surgery protocols, I sat alone in my office as darkness fell over Seattle. I pulled up Nathan's Facebook page. His profile picture showed him in full firefighter gear, holding an axe, his jaw square and his smile confident. The same smile that used to make me feel safe before I learned what his hands could do. His posts were all performative heroism. Photos from fire scenes, community events, charity fundraisers. The comments were full of praise. What a hero. We're lucky to have you. Protecting our community. No one knew. No one suspected. My phone buzzed. A text from Raymond, preliminary search shows something interesting. Call me. I dialed immediately. What did you find? Your boy Nathan has been busy. 3911 calls from his address in the past 2 years, all domestic disturbances, all dismissed. Victoria Kane made 2 of those calls. The third was from a neighbor. My hand tightened on the phone. What happened? Nothing. Nathan's best friend is a cop. Officer Derek Mills. He responded to all 3 calls, and nothing was filed. No reports, no arrests, no records except the dispatch logs I had to dig pretty deep to find. There's more, isn't there? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Nathan's mother, Mrs. Patricia Hartley, died 8 months ago. Left him everything, house, savings, investments. Worth about $1.2 million. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. And 2 months after she died, Nathan took out $1 million life insurance policy on Victoria. She's listed as his fiancée, not even his wife yet, but somehow he got her to sign it. The pattern was repeating. Exactly the same pattern. Raymond, I need you to dig deeper. I need to know everything about that life insurance policy, about his finances, about Victoria's life. Friends, family, work, everything. Doc, what are you planning? I'm going to a wedding. That's not a good idea. I'm going to stop him, Raymond. Before he does to her what he tried to do to me. I hung up before he could argue further. My mind was already spinning, calculating, planning. I'd spent 11 years studying faces, learning how to reconstruct them, how to read them, how to understand the story written in scars and bone structure. Now I was going to use those skills for something different. I pulled out my laptop and started researching Millbrook Falls. The town had grown since I left. Population now 20,000, up from 15. The fire department had expanded. Nathan had been promoted to captain 3 years ago. Captain Nathan Hartley. Hero. Lifesaver. Pillar of the community. Wife murderer. I opened a new document and started typing. Not medical notes this time, but a different kind of plan. If I was going to do this, I needed to be smart. Strategic. I couldn't just show up and announce I was alive. Nathan would spin it somehow, make me look crazy, make everyone doubt me. I needed leverage. Evidence. Proof. And I needed to protect Victoria. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparations. Raymond sent files, thick digital folders full of information about Nathan's life. His bank accounts showed regular deposits from the fire department, but also some irregular cash deposits that didn't match any legitimate source. Gambling, Raymond explained when I called. He's been betting on sports. Lost about $40,000 in the past year. Victoria doesn't know, he's been hiding it. How do you know she doesn't know? Because her checking account is separate, and she's been saving every penny. She's got $15,000 saved up. Her posts on a private savings forum talk about our future and our house fund. She has no idea he's in debt. I made notes. Financial desperation plus life insurance plus history of violence equaled a very dangerous situation for Victoria. Raymond sent more. Photos of Nathan and Victoria. Most showed them happy, but in some, Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. In one photo from a month ago, she was wearing a turtleneck in July. In another, makeup couldn't quite hide what looked like a healing cut near her hairline. I talked to some people in Millbrook Falls, Raymond said in our next call. Quietly. Victoria's friends say she's been different lately. More withdrawn. She canceled the girls' trip last month, said Nathan wanted her home for a family thing. Her sister lives 2 hours away and says Victoria barely calls anymore. Isolation. Classic abuser tactic. What about Nathan's friends? Anyone who might talk? Forget it. They're all loyal. The firefighter brotherhood thing is strong. Derek Mills, the cop, would die for Nathan. So would the rest of the crew. They all think he's a saint. Because they didn't know me. They only knew Nathan's version of me. What was his version? I leaned back in my chair, memories flooding back. That I was unstable. Depressed. Possibly suicidal. He told everyone I was seeing a therapist for mental health issues. He controlled the narrative before I even knew I needed to defend myself. That's what abusers do, Raymond said quietly. They set up the story in advance. I know. I see it every day in my patients. So what's the plan, Doc? I looked at the invitation again, still sitting on my desk. I'm going to that wedding. But not as a ghost. Not as the dead wife come back to haunt him. Then as who? As Dr. Sophia Westbrook. Successful surgeon. Potential donor to the fire department. Someone Nathan doesn't recognize. You think he won't recognize you? I touched my face, feeling the changes. 11 years, rhinoplasty to fix the nose he broke, subtle work around my eyes, different hair color, different style, different everything. I'd reconstructed my own face as part of my healing. Not drastically, but enough. I'm counting on it. And then what? Then I get close. I find proof. I protect Victoria. And I make sure Nathan Hartley can never hurt anyone again. Doc, this is dangerous. I've been dead for 11 years, Raymond. I've got nothing to lose. I hung up and started packing. Not just clothes, but something else. A folder Raymond had compiled for me. Evidence that wouldn't hold up in court, yet, but that told a story. Photos, financial records, testimonies from people willing to talk off the record. And in a separate bag, carefully wrapped, I packed my old life. The hospital records from when Nathan had sent me to the ER claiming I'd fallen down the stairs. The photos I'd secretly taken of my bruises, stored on an old phone he didn't know about. The journal I'd kept, documenting every incident in careful detail. Evidence from beyond the grave. The flight to Portland was 2 hours. From there, I'd rent a car and drive to Millbrook Falls. I'd booked a room at the Riverside Inn under my legal name, Sophia Westbrook. Dr. Sophia Westbrook, according to the reservation. As the plane descended through clouds, I caught my reflection in the window. I barely recognized myself. Not just because of the physical changes, but because of who I'd become. The terrified girl who'd fled in the night had been replaced by someone stronger. Someone with resources. Someone with power. Someone who knew how to fight back. The rental car GPS guided me through familiar roads that felt foreign after 11 years. Millbrook Falls had changed. New buildings, new shops, new restaurants. But the core was the same. The fire station still stood downtown, red brick and white trim, the American flag flying proudly. I drove past Nathan's house. Our old house. He still lived there, in the small colonial on Maple Street. The garden I'd planted was gone, replaced by minimal landscaping. A pickup truck sat in the driveway, his. Behind it, a small sedan, Victoria's. I kept driving. The Riverside Inn was nice, renovated since I'd left. I checked in, climbed to my third-floor room, and stood at the window overlooking the river. The same river where my car had supposedly plunged 11 years ago. The same river the search teams had dragged for my body. I hadn't been in that car. I'd abandoned it on the bridge, made it look like an accident, and hitchhiked to the nearest city. From there, I'd taken buses, trains, anything to put distance between myself and Nathan. I'd used fake names, paid cash, disappeared into the anonymous crowds of big cities. In Seattle, I'd slowly rebuilt my identity. Used my medical school transcripts under my maiden name, Sophia Bennett, to get into a residency program. Changed my name legally to Westbrook after my first year. No connection to Nathan Hartley, no connection to the dead wife in Millbrook Falls. I pulled out my phone and looked at Victoria's Instagram again. Her latest post was a countdown. 2 weeks until I marry my best friend. I can't believe how lucky I am. The comments were full of heart emojis and congratulations. One comment caught my eye, "Girl, you deserve all the happiness. After everything you've been through, Nathan is your blessing." After everything she'd been through. What did that mean? I clicked on the commenter's profile. Jessica Torres, Victoria's best friend according to the bio. Her Instagram was private, but her Facebook wasn't. I scrolled through, looking for clues. There. A post from 2 years ago, "So proud of my best friend Victoria for leaving that toxic situation. You deserved so much better." Victoria had come from an abusive relationship before Nathan. That's why she didn't see the signs. She thought she'd found her savior, her hero firefighter who would protect her. She had no idea she'd traded one cage for another. My phone rang. "Raymond. I found something you need to know about. The wedding venue, do you know where it is?" I grabbed the invitation. The Millbrook Grand Hotel. Why? That hotel is owned by Nathan's uncle, Gerald Hartley Sr. It's a family property. Which means Nathan has total control over the venue, the guest list, everything. So he's not just getting married there. He's getting married in a place where he controls every variable. Every door, every camera, every employee. A chill ran down my spine. You think he's planning something? I think a man who took out $1 million life insurance policy on his fiancée 2 months before the wedding and has a history of violence is planning something. And I think you walking into his territory is a very bad idea. I'm not walking in blind, Raymond. I'm going in with a plan. What plan? I looked at my reflection in the hotel mirror. Professional. Polished. Powerful. Nothing like the broken girl who'd fled this town. I'm going to make a donation to the fire department. A big one. Big enough that Nathan will want to meet with me personally. Big enough that he'll welcome me into his world. And then? Then I'll be at that wedding. Not as a guest, but as a benefactor. Someone he needs to impress. Someone he can't afford to alienate. You're going to use his greed against him. I'm going to use everything against him. His greed. His pride. His need to be seen as a hero. I'm going to put on such a convincing performance that he never sees me coming. And Victoria? I closed my eyes, seeing her face in those Instagram photos. So young. So trusting. So doomed if I didn't act. I'm going to save her life. Even if she doesn't know she needs saving yet. Doc, you know this could backfire. If Nathan recognizes you. He won't. I'm not Sophia Bennett anymore. I'm Dr. Sophia Westbrook. And I'm about to become the best thing that ever happened to the Millbrook Falls Fire Department. I hung up and pulled out my laptop. Time to make a donation. The Millbrook Falls Fire Department website had a donation page. I clicked through, reading about their needs. New equipment. Training programs. Community outreach. All the things that made them look like heroes. I called the number listed for large donations. A woman answered. Millbrook Falls Fire Department, this is Karen. Hello, my name is Dr. Sophia Westbrook. I'm calling about making a donation. Oh, wonderful. We always appreciate support from the community. What amount were you thinking? $50,000. Silence. I'm sorry, did you say 50,000? Yes. I'm a surgeon in Seattle, and I've recently lost a family member who was saved by firefighters. I'd like to honor their memory by supporting fire departments across the country. Millbrook Falls is my first donation. I could hear the excitement in her voice. That's incredibly generous, Dr. Westbrook. Let me transfer you to our captain. He'll want to speak with you personally. My heart rate picked up. This was it. Of course. Hold music. I counted my breaths, staying calm. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 11 years. This is Captain Hartley. Nathan's voice. Deeper now, rougher. The voice that used to whisper I love you before it screamed at me. Captain Hartley, this is Dr. Sophia Westbrook. I understand you're the person to speak with about major donations. That's right. Karen mentioned you're interested in donating $50,000. Yes. I specialize in reconstructive surgery for trauma victims, and firefighters have saved many of my patients' lives. I'd like to give back. That's very generous, Doctor. We'd be honored to accept your donation. Are there any specific programs you'd like to support? Actually, I'd like to discuss that in person. I'll be in the Millbrook Falls area next week. Would you have time to meet? A pause. I could hear him calculating, weighing the value of $50,000 against his time. Absolutely. I'd be happy to give you a tour of our facility and discuss how your donation could best serve our community. Wonderful. I'm actually in town now. Would tomorrow work? Tomorrow? He sounded surprised. Yes, I can make that work. How about 10 a.m.? Perfect. I'll see you then, Captain Hartley. I hung up before he could say anything else. My hands were shaking. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I would see Nathan face to face for the first time in 11 years. Would he recognize me? I studied my reflection again. No. The Sophia he knew had long dark hair, a bump on her nose from where he'd broken it, hunched shoulders from trying to make herself smaller. This Sophia had short auburn hair professionally styled, a perfectly straight nose courtesy of the best plastic surgeon in Seattle, and the posture of someone who'd learned she was worth standing tall. I was unrecognizable. I had to be. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I had Raymond send over documents that would make me look legitimate, articles about my surgical practice, photos of me at medical conferences, charity work I'd done. All real. All under my new name. I practiced my voice, my mannerisms, my story. I was Dr. Sophia Westbrook, raised in Boston, educated at Johns Hopkins, now practicing in Seattle. No connection to Millbrook Falls. No connection to Sophia Bennett, the dead wife. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the hotel bed, listening to the river outside, thinking about the last time I'd heard Nathan's voice. It had been right before I ran. "You're nothing without me," he'd said, standing over me as I bled on our kitchen floor. "You think you can leave? You think anyone will believe you over me? I'm a hero, Sophia. You're just a crazy girl with no family and no future. If you try to leave, I'll destroy you. I'll make everyone think you're insane. I'll make them think you're a suicide risk. And when you're gone, no one will even remember your name." He'd been right about one thing. When I disappeared, people forgot Sophia Bennett. But they were about to meet Dr. Sophia Westbrook. And she was about to remind Nathan Hartley what it felt like to be powerless. Morning came with brilliant sunshine, mocking the darkness of my mission. I dressed carefully, professional but not flashy. Navy suit, modest heels, minimal jewelry. The image of a successful doctor with money to spare and good intentions. The fire station was a 10-minute drive from my hotel. I parked in the visitor lot, taking a moment to steady myself before getting out of the car. The building looked the same. Red brick. White trim. A plaque by the door listing the firefighters who died in service. I wondered if they'd put my name on a plaque somewhere. Sophia Bennett, beloved wife of Captain Hartley, tragically lost in a car accident. I pushed open the door. The lobby was clean and professional, photos of the crew on the walls. And there, in the center, was a large portrait of Nathan in his dress uniform. Captain Nathan Hartley, it read. Serving our community since 2009. Dr. Westbrook? I turned. My heart stopped. Nathan stood there in his uniform, hand extended, that familiar smile on his face. Older now, lines around his eyes, but essentially the same. The same man who'd promised to love and protect me before he nearly killed me. I forced my hand forward, shaking his. His grip was firm, professional. Captain Hartley. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course. We're honored by your generosity. He gestured toward a hallway. Let me show you around. I followed him through the station, hyper-aware of every movement, every word. He didn't recognize me. Not even a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He showed me the trucks, the equipment, the training room. He introduced me to his crew, young men who looked at him with obvious admiration. Captain Hartley saved my life during a warehouse fire, one of them said. He's the real deal. Nathan smiled modestly. Just doing my job. I smiled too, playing my part. That's exactly why I want to support your department. Heroes like you deserve the best equipment. We ended up in his office, a small room with photos on the walls. Him receiving awards. Him at community events. And there, on his desk, a photo of Victoria. Beautiful. Smiling. Trusting. Your fiancé? I asked, picking up the frame. Yes. Victoria. We're getting married next week, actually. Congratulations. She's beautiful. Thank you. I'm a lucky man. He paused. Would you like to come to the wedding? I know it's short notice, but given your generous donation, it would be an honor to have you there. My pulse quickened. This was better than I'd planned. I wouldn't want to intrude. Not at all. Please. Consider it our way of thanking you for your support. I pretended to consider it. Well, if you're sure it wouldn't be imposing. I'd be delighted. Nathan's smile widened. He had no idea he'd just invited his dead wife to his wedding. We talked for another hour about the donation, about equipment needs, about his plans for the department. He was charming, professional, passionate about his work. Anyone would think he was exactly what he appeared to be, a dedicated public servant. But I saw the truth. I saw it in the way he gripped his pen too tightly when talking about budget constraints. I saw it in the flash of anger in his eyes when his phone buzzed and he glanced at a text. I saw it in the way he talked about Victoria, possessive language masked as love. My Victoria. I take care of her. She needs me. The same words he'd used about me before I understood what they really meant. As I left the fire station, Nathan walked me to my car. I'll have my secretary email you the wedding details. It's at the Millbrook Grand Hotel. Black tie. 6 p.m. ceremony. I'll be there. We shook hands again. His grip lingered a moment too long, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not recognition, but interest. The way a predator looks at potential prey. I drove away, checking my rearview mirror. Nathan stood in the parking lot, watching my car disappear. Back at the hotel, I immediately called Raymond. I'm in. He invited me to the wedding. Doc, this is getting too dangerous. It's the only way. I need to be there. I need to see what he's planning. You really think he's planning to hurt her at the wedding? I think he's planning to hurt her soon. The life insurance. The debt. The pattern. Raymond, I know how he thinks. I lived with him for 3 years. He's building toward something. Then go to the police. Tell them who you are. Show them the evidence. The police? His best friend is a cop, Raymond. The whole department thinks he's a hero. They won't believe me. I'd need concrete, undeniable proof. So what's the plan? I looked at Victoria's photo on my phone. So young. So doomed. The plan is I save her life before it needs saving. I document everything. And when the time is right, I make sure Nathan Hartley gets exactly what he deserves. And what does he deserve? I thought about the girl I used to be, bleeding on the kitchen floor, believing she deserved the abuse. I thought about the woman I'd become, saving faces and lives, turning pain into purpose. He deserves to lose everything. Just like he made me lose everything. Doc. 1 week, Raymond. Give me 1 week. If I can't get what I need by then, I'll go to the authorities and damn the consequences. I hung up before he could argue. 1 week until the wedding. 1 week to stop a murderer. 1 week to rise from the dead and become Victoria's guardian angel. Even if she'd never know it was me. I pulled out the wedding invitation again, running my fingers over Nathan's name. For 11 years, I'd been dead. For 11 years, he'd been free. But the dead don't stay buried forever. And some ghosts come back with a vengeance. The wedding day arrived with oppressive heat. I stood in the Grand Hotel ballroom, champagne in hand, watching guests file in. Nathan worked the crowd in his tuxedo, the perfect groom. Victoria looked radiant in white lace, unaware she was marching toward her own funeral. I'd spent the week gathering evidence. Raymond had discovered Nathan's plan, a honeymoon cruise, a tragic accident overboard, another grieving widower collecting insurance money. History repeating itself. Dr. Westbrook. Nathan approached, all smiles. I'm so glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it, I said, returning his smile. Victoria joined us, her hand trembling slightly as Nathan gripped it. Up close, I saw the concealer covering a bruise on her collarbone. "This is Dr. Westbrook," Nathan said. "She's donating $50,000 to the department." "How generous," Victoria whispered, her voice small. I looked into her eyes and saw myself 11 years ago. Trapped. Scared. Believing escape was impossible. The ceremony began. I watched from the back row as they exchanged vows. Nathan's voice rang with false sincerity, "Till death do us part." Death. Always death with him. During the reception, I watched Nathan drink heavily, his mask slipping. He grabbed Victoria's arm too roughly when she spoke to a male guest. She flinched, apologized, retreated. I made my move during the cake cutting. "Excuse me, everyone," I called out, tapping my glass. The room fell silent. "I'd like to propose a toast." Nathan looked annoyed but smiled for the guests. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the venue's display screen. "To the happy couple. But first, let me introduce myself properly." I pressed play. The screen filled with my old driver's license. Sophia Bennett. Nathan's first wife. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Nathan's face went white. 11 years ago, I continued, my voice steady, I supposedly died in a car accident. But I didn't die. I ran. Because staying with Nathan Hartley meant dying. The screen changed, hospital records from my ER visits. Photos of my bruises, my broken nose, my split lip. Nathan beat me for 3 years. Then he told me if I tried to leave, he'd make it look like suicide. So I faked my death instead. Victoria stood frozen, her bouquet falling from her hands. Nathan declared me dead after 7 years and collected my life insurance. $200,000. The screen showed the payout documents. "And now, he's taken out $1 million policy on you, Victoria." More gasps. Nathan lurched forward, but 2 men blocked him, Raymond and his team, posing as guests. "These are the 911 calls Victoria made." Audio played, Victoria's terrified voice reporting domestic violence, then Officer Derek Mills dismissing it as a misunderstanding. Derek stood up, face red. "This is slander." "It's evidence," I cut him off. "Evidence I've already shared with the state police, the FBI, and every media outlet in the region." The screen showed Nathan's gambling debts, his financial desperation, and finally, the cruise tickets. The honeymoon. The life insurance beneficiary forms. "He was going to kill you on that cruise, Victoria. Just like he tried to kill me." Victoria's sister rushed to her side as Victoria collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The wedding guests stood in shocked silence. Nathan finally found his voice. "You're insane. I grieved for you. You cashed in on me." I shot back. "And now you're doing it again. But not this time." Police officers entered the ballroom, real ones, from the State Bureau. The lead detective approached Nathan. "Nathan Hartley, you're under arrest for insurance fraud, making false statements to police, and attempted murder conspiracy." As they handcuffed him, Nathan's eyes met mine, rage and disbelief warring on his face. "You ruined everything," he hissed. "No," I said quietly. "I saved her. Just like I saved myself." Derek Mills was arrested too, along with 2 other officers who'd helped cover Nathan's abuse. The firefighter brotherhood that protected him was crumbling in real time. Victoria approached me, tears streaming. "Why? Why did you come back?" "Because I saw the bruises in your photos. Because I recognized the pattern. Because I couldn't let him do to you what he did to me." She threw her arms around me, sobbing. "Thank you. Thank you." 3 months later. I sat in my Seattle office, reading the news. Nathan had pleaded guilty to avoid trial. 25 years in prison. Derek Mills got 10 years for obstruction of justice. The life insurance company had refunded Victoria's policy and was suing Nathan for the money he'd stolen from my death. Victoria had moved in with her sister, started therapy, and filed for an annulment. She'd sent me a letter thanking me, saying she was finally learning what freedom felt like. My phone rang. A patient referral, another domestic violence survivor needing reconstructive surgery. Send her in, I told Lily. As I prepared for the consultation, I caught my reflection in the window. Dr. Sophia Westbrook. Survivor. Surgeon. Savior. I'd been dead for 11 years. But I'd come back to life in the most important way, by giving someone else a chance to live. Nathan thought he could make me disappear forever. Instead, I'd disappeared him. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Some ghosts don't haunt. They save. The end. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload from us.